Welcome to Trivial Theater. Now, make no mistake that this week is a big one. As you can tell by the marquee, I'm once again joined by the incredible Ryan from the Coolness Chronicles to tackle Mystery Science Theater 3000. Last time he was here, we covered Season 12, otherwise known as the Gauntlet. Well, you ain't seen nothing yet. We aren't just tackling a season or two, but the entire original series. We got movie sign! The concept of Mystery Science Theater 3000 began at tiny station KTMA in Minneapolis, Minnesota in 1988. It was the brainchild of stand-up comedian Joel Hodgson and station manager Jim Mallon. One major point of inspiration was 1972's Silent Running, about a marooned human whose only companions were 3 robot drones. After creating a couple of hodgepodge robots called Crotty Robot and Beeper, later switched to Tom Servo, from a crazy variety of household items, as well as a space station set from whatever was lying around, including random Christmas decor and a toilet seat, the real work began. Joel shot a short pilot based on the movie Green Slime, and their course was set from there. Over the course of the next 6 months, they filmed against a tiny green screen, live riffing their way through 21 episodes featuring movies from a network library. The show gained quite a following from the local audience as they moved along. My favorite of the season has to be the Gamera series. There's just something about seeing early MST episodes mixed with kaiju movies. After all, the two had become synonymous throughout the series. Seeing Crow frozen and later used as a Christmas tree stands as one of those cheeky early segments that gives us an indication of where the show would later go. After the very first KTMA episode, the answering machine was filled with people saying how they loved the show, hated the show, or didn't understand the show. This would influence the reading of letters as they progressed throughout the series, and set the tone for how the show would be received over time. And I gotta say, for as little as they were on camera, the Mads were just amazing, especially during their pizza and pasta promos. The KTMA season isn't always the easiest to watch, but they are essential viewing to understand the heart of what MST3K is. The show comes from incredibly humble roots, but even when it was crowdfunded back in 2015, it kept a lot of that original heart. In my eyes, the ability to evolve with the times, but stay true to the original vision is a sign of a really good show.
If the KTMA season is the primordial ooze of MST3K, Season 1 is where the organism that emerges develops feet and takes its first steps. That's an incredibly pretentious way of saying that there is a lot of development to be made. I mean, the sets weren't even finished, and the silhouettes were green for Pete's sake. Growth is a process. It's tough to pick a favorite from this year because all of the experiments are parts of a whole, but if we're talking about pure, unadulterated weirdness, look no further than the 6th episode, The Crawling Hand. The disembodied arm of an astronaut who exploded in space makes a landfall on Earth, promptly strangles random people, and telepathically compels a young med student to kill. I need not bother trying to sell you this bit of goods. It's already a more complex franchise in the making than practically every other modern slasher. And did I mention that the day is saved by a random ravenous cat? Mwah! Bellissimo! The host segments get in on the fun with some utterly charming mockery of William Shatner's trademark distress delivery that will be music to the ears of even the most casual of Star Trek fans.
Must cut transponder from wrist, fashion crude phaser device with bed slat and light bulb.
Must control myself. Must find pastel-colored native female. Execute prime directive.
And as a prelude to what would become a signature part of the series, Joel and the bots read their first letter of the cable era, ushering in a vital avenue of communication between the show and us fans.
Season 2 always felt like it was where the show really found its groove. The set felt more complete, and everybody seemed a little bit more comfortable in their roles. That's not to say that there weren't some rather large changes to the SOL, because there were, in the form of 2 main characters. Dr. Earhart went quote-unquote missing, and he was replaced by former Arby's worker, Frank, played by Frank Conniff. And Tom Servo underwent a voice change, being played by Kevin Murphy. These massive changes were the first for the series, but both actors became staples that shaped what MST would become. In a season that included a set of Godzilla classics and some incredibly dramatic teen dramas, Episode 10, featuring King Dinosaur, is my season fave. I mean, these amazingly accurate spacesuits clearly inspired NASA to create the design that we know so well today. And then there's Joey the Lemur.
It's Joey the Lemur, the friend to mankind, our furry sort of monkey friend, he really does shine. Hey,
to this day, I'm pretty sure that my ears still bleed when I hear that song. I guess it means it's ingrained in my soul. For my money, Season 2 features some of the best invention exchanges across the original series. Whether you're talking about the Mads tank tops, the BGC-19 drum machine, or these two variations on Slinkies, it's just a super fun season, even when the risk of torture is involved.
When I think of iconic monsters that have passed through the Mystery Science Theater, there are an elite few that have achieved immortal status. Torgo, the Creeping Terror, Crankor, and Coleman Francis all leap to mind. But the most adorably misguided of them all arrived in the third episode of Season 3, Pod People, and his name is Trumpy. Trumpy was inserted into this early 80s Spanish-French co-production on the heels of the release of E.T., as producers felt their nasty little horror movie could use more whimsical children making connections with aliens through the power of friendship. And this is the best design that they could come up with. The unpleasant love child of Alf, Hooter from Captain EO, and an anteater, Trumpy compensates for his appearance with selective telekinesis that approximates Steven Spielberg by way of a foreign bootleg of Pee-wee's Playhouse. Pod People features a song called Burning Rubber Tires, one so chock full of unintelligible nonsense lyrics that an entire host segment was dedicated to recreating it. Not to be undersold, the segment also includes an indelible catchphrase that quickly became the two most essential words in the MST3K pantheon.
It stinks!
Sometimes you don't even need riffs when subtext is also text.
Season 4 brings us a variety of things, including, but not limited to, Torgo, a shit ton of Hercules, and a truly savage beatdown that stands as one of my top moments from the original series. The movie was Attack of the Eye Creatures. If you're looking for movie mistakes, this one is a buffet of continuity errors, wardrobe issues, and lazy filmmaking. And at the end, it almost feels like a therapeutic moment for the writers to just outrightly point their finger at all the dumb shit and proclaim,
Folks, they just didn't care.
From an overall favorite episode standpoint, well, I couldn't just have one. The first is considered to be a contender for the worst film in the series. Monster A Go-Go is a movie without a script to speak of, which focuses mostly on dancing and the chasing down of a monster that, at the end of the day, apparently didn't exist. At the other end of the quality spectrum, The Day the Earth Froze is a gorgeous film that shows the ability of the crew and writers to pull off solid riffs on good movies as well as bad. And in an inspired Aliens parody that spans the length of Fire Maidens from Outer Space, we're introduced to Crow's imaginary friend, Timmy, who not only attacks and glues Servo to the wall with ooze, but brings on a legendary moment that stands as another personal fave.
Let go of him, you bitch! Stay close!
Season 4 is notable for a ton of good riffs in movies, but there is one episode that's a staple of the MST3K experience as both a fan favorite movie and as a favorite reoccurring character. The movie is Manos, the Hand of Fate, and the character, in host segments, is Torgo, played by Mike Nelson, who provides moment after moment of awesomeness. His introduction during a pizza delivery to the Mads in Manos, and the follow-up some episodes later, stands as an incredible arc. It also brings us the equally heartbreaking and heartwarming tale of Hired, which stands as one of the musical highlights of the original series.
Season 5 was the ultimate test for the series. When host Joel Hodgson decided to leave after years of feuding with producer Jim Mallon, it divided the show into two distinct eras, one led by Joel, the other in the capable hands of head writer Michael J. Nelson. This caused significant anxiety amongst the makers at MST3K and sparked a debate about which host is best that seems to never end. But as a silver lining, this change proved conclusively that the concept was not a fluke. That collaborators may come and go, but as long as the riffs are strong, the tone is consistent, and the chemistry between characters is engaging, the show will not only survive, it will thrive. The episode that ushers in the new era still stands as my favorite of the entire series. Mitchell will always have a special place in my heart, but even if I didn't have a deep connection with it, it would still be a high watermark. Where MST3K usually found its niche in monster movies or silly sci-fi, Mitchell is the ultimate bad cop movie, and that change of pace works in its favor. Mitchell stars the dyspeptic Joe Don Baker as the most slovenly, repulsive detective this side of Harvey Keitel. The glorious 70s funk-tinged soundtrack, the who's who cast of slumming character actors, the endless reservoir of slob jokes, everything about this experiment works, and the riffs don't hit a false note. It's a snapshot of a well-oiled machine at peak efficiency. No series in such trying circumstances has ever been as sublime.
Mitchell's on a corner.
Mitchell!
Mike Nelson continues as our trap movie riffing companion as season 6 begins. It brings some incredibly funny moments, but also some very sad ones. Season finale Samson vs. the Vampire Women marks the final episode of Frank Conniff, a loss on screen as an incredible mad, and behind the scenes as the person who decided what movies make the cut. His goodbye features a sweet song by Dr. Forrester.
Tell me who will I kill? Goodbye, Frank. And remember, wherever you are, I will kill you.
On the fun side, the series treats us to a trio of episodes featuring movies from serial bad movie god Coleman Francis, Mary Jo Peel's first appearance as Pearl Forrester, and a glorious roll of shag carpet that eats people. The Creeping Terror ranks right up for me with Monster A Go-Go. It's such a bad movie on so many levels, and yet in the end I can't help but think it's pretty grand. Even when it's having a little sexy time with this car. Season favorite for me has to be Zombie Nightmare featuring John Thor and the incomparable Batman himself, Adam West, in a role that will surprise you. The failed Batman and Robin sketch is appropriately hilarious, with Servo mocking Adam West to a T, and Frank accidentally turning Forrester into a zombie during the final host segment was funny as hell.
Season 7 marks another major turning point for the series, coming on the heels of the criminally underrated theatrically released movie based on the show that was a particularly torturous production for everyone involved. The movie was followed by an abbreviated run of 6 episodes, the end of which came with an eviction notice from Comedy Central, the show's home for over 6 years. It also featured the biggest cast shakeup since Joel's escape, the departure of Trace Beaulieu, the originator of Crow T. Robot, and Dr. Clayton Forrester, and the designer of the Satellite of Love. Trace's bittersweet send-off came in the form of Laser Blast, a sci-fi movie from Full Moon Features founder Charles Band. Laser Blast is a movie with major ideas, all endearingly assembled at random and seemingly blindfolded. Stop-motion lizard aliens who speak in their own language without subtitles? Check. An amulet that transforms its wearer into an Edgar Winter zombie? You betcha. A laser gun with devastating power utilized against average citizens for no discernible reason? Damn right. Shots fired at Star Wars, literally? Wouldn't have it any other way. Leonard Maltin, rascal that he is, gave Laser Blast 2.5 stars. And who's to say he's wrong in claiming that it's half a star better than Blade Runner?
Season 8 kinda came in like a wrecking ball, changing things on a level not seen before in the series. This included a move to the Sci-Fi Channel, and with that, an emphasis on science fiction movies, and an overarching storyline for the season, something not done before in MST's history. It also introduced us to a new set of baddies in the form of a reinvigorated Pearl Forrester, and her eventual sidekicks, Brain Guy, played by newcomer Bill Corbett, and Professor Bobo, played by Kevin Murphy. Bill also took over the role of Crow. Their torture continues as they find themselves being shown terrible movies by really smart apes. Then they're tortured with terrible movies by the Observers, a race of brain guys who carry their brains around in pans. They arrive above ancient Rome where Pearl and crew are treated as gods, but Mike and the bots are still tortured with terrible movies. As with every season, there are fan-favorite episodes. Season 8 includes Space Mutiny and Time Chasers among them. My personal fave starts with a name, and it's kind of all downhill from there. The incredibly strange creatures who stopped living and became mixed-up zombies features the longest title in series history, as well as some of the tallest hair. The hair theme continues as Mike gets a new do that gets tangled in communication satellites. The movie itself has some kind of weird circus imagery, including a burlesque show for middle-aged ladies, a dance number about being shook out of shape, and the appearance of the titular zombies in the final act. Honestly, these guys have about as much in common with zombies as they do with sparkly vampires. I'm just saying.
Italy has given us so many great things. Pizza, the cello, casinos, camera dollies, espresso, neorealism, and, most importantly, knockoffs of American blockbusters. The Exorcist not enough for you? Try Beyond the Door. Star Wars too coherent? Savor Star Crash. Is it too expensive to license the DC Comics character Superman? Just strip it of all intellectual property, string up an actor in front of a projection screen, and match Donald Pleasance's quote. There, you have the most delightfully confounding discovery of Season 9, the PUMAMAN. This is one of those experiments that doesn't truly feel real. Who in their right mind would look at this at any stage and think, giant spinning alien globes at Stonehenge, magical gold masks with telepathic control, puma gods with the power of flight? Yep, it all tracks. People will eat this crap up and ask for a sequel. It's a curio that would have been forgotten in the sands of bad movie time, that instead received a second life, one which will keep it in the pop culture consciousness for decades, and keep me humming its insidious earworm of a score.
When you want the flavor of bacon in a dip.
The final chapter of the original series began with some tremendous callbacks from the first episode, which featured Soul Taker. Joel returned to help fix the SOL, and Frank returns from Second Banana Heaven. It feels like a proper beginning for what would be the last season. Despite that point, it didn't lose any of its punch, putting out a season of amazing episodes full of great riffs. From Joe Don Baker's appearance in Final Justice, to the amazing cardboard flannel android nun dinosaur fair known as Future War, the season had a really strong lineup of movies. I love Final Justice for its attempt by Mike to justify leaving the SOL, since Joel left on a Joe Don Baker movie too, but my personal fave is Girl with the Gold Boots. There's so much good and crazy in this episode, from the extreme overacting that makes me think of a prequel to Showgirls, to Crow's sexy turn as a stripper. Brain Guy also proved to have some pretty killer dance moves, and some great legs. Diabolic ends MST's original run, and it feels like the series ended on a high. The ending of this series is in turn funny and bittersweet, as in a way, it takes us back to the beginning. The legacy of MST3K survived on through reruns for a few more years on Sci-Fi, Turkey Day marathons, and tapes, DVDs, and URLs. Not to get too mushy, but Mystery Science Theater 3000 was and is more than a show to a lot of us. Like a lot of fandoms, it connects us, and brings us joy in the watching and reliving of those moments. Without those initial sparks in the mind of one incredible guy in the late 80s, and the amazing efforts of a small group of actors and crew based out of the most unlikely of places, MST3K wouldn't be here. And, at least for a couple of Misties, the world wouldn't be quite as cool of a place without it. Special thanks once again to Ryan for helping me out with this massive project. The Coolness Chronicles is an absolute must if you love MST3K. You'll find him on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and several other platforms. You can find all of his links in the description below. So what do you think? Suggestions for movies, trivial questions, comments, ratings, and an answer to the great question about eating, breathing, and other science facts would be appreciated. Thank you so very much for watching.